Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to chat with Tony Khan to discuss the upcoming AEW Dynasty pay-per-view event right here in St. Louis, one of the great professional wrestling cities in the United States, or for that matter, the world. A few reminders. As always, we want to give as many of you the opportunity to speak with Tony, so please no two-parted questions. And another reminder, we've come together to talk about Dynasty, so if we can keep it on task, that would be wonderful. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony for some opening thoughts, and we're going to open the lines for your questions. Tony, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited about this pay-per-view. I think AEW Dynasty is going to be an amazing show. It should be a great weekend. We're going to Jim Woodcock's hometown, and this whole week is probably the closest I've ever had to a hometown loop. Driving through I-74, going west from Indianapolis, through Champaign to Peoria, and then heading to St. Louis. So it'll be great. And like Jim said, St. Louis is an amazing wrestling town with a great history, and hopefully we can do something to continue that great tradition of pro wrestling in the Gateway City. Dynasty is going to be a great show. Thank you all for coming to talk about the show today, and I'll try to get through as many questions as I can, and hopefully some of you will be joining us Sunday at the pay-per-view also. And if I don't get to your question today, hopefully I'll see you there, and I'll try to take everybody's questions, anybody who comes to the show. And with that, Jim, let's start talking about AEW Dynasty, please.
That sounds wonderful. So we're going to start with Dominic D'Angelo from adfreeshows.com, and after Dominic, Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net will be next. Dominic, you are up.
Hey, Dom.
Hey, so looking forward to Dynasty this weekend. Should be a good show. The card looks very stacked. Wanted to get your thoughts on the big topic throughout the past couple of weeks of the airing of that footage of All In and lead to the Bucks and FTR going here. I wanted to get your personal opinion on thinking about, do you understand, it was kind of universally panned across online and everything like that, and you kind of see some of that reception going on, I'm sure. Do you kind of understand that criticism, or where's your head kind of at when it comes to airing that footage and making that decision?
After the ratings came in, felt like when TBS called me and told me, good job, you have to remember that I'm responsible for everybody's jobs in this company. And it is really important for us to please the network, and TBS was really happy with that show and that performance. That's the most important thing. And our fan feedback on the show that we got, the rating is the number one source of fan feedback in the end for the network, and they were incredibly pleased. It was over 400,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic, and that was a strong performance. And that is how TBS judges the show, and how TBS judges the show is the most important metric I have for the performance. And then the fan reception last night, we had an amazing crowd. The fans were rabid. They were really excited. They were red hot, in particular for that match involving the Young Bucks. FTR got big chants, and I think people are really excited to see Young Bucks teaming up this weekend with Okada to take on Pac and FTR and get a preview of that big ladder match at Dynasty. I'm very much excited about it. I do think that what we did last week added a lot of intrigue to this match, and I'm very excited for the Dynasty pay-per-view. I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view, and I am very happy about how we got here.
Thank you very much, Don. Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net will be next, followed by Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics. Jason, you are up.
Scenario in which you would step down as head of creative and hire a booker to run AEW, or do you consider your position to be permanent?
That's a great question. I would certainly at some point, we'd have to see where we're at. I think with all positions, nobody lasts forever, and eventually that's something, with any position at any of the organizations I'm in, that will be a reality. I think whether it's the Jaguars or Fulham or AEW or True Media. I won't be here forever. So, it's definitely one of the highlights of my life, being able to be involved in these shows, work on these shows, and do creative planning. And I'm having more fun than ever right now. Really loved last night's show. I thought last night was a really strong go-home Dynamite leading into this pay-per-view. And, I take it year to year, moment to moment, and really loving what we're doing right now. I'm only 41 years old, and I feel like the company's in a really strong place, and some of the greatest wrestlers in the world are very loyal to me personally, and I really am very proud of that. And hopefully can continue to do my best to repay them. And I think right now the company's in a very strong place. We just had a valuation, I understand, of $2 billion placed on AEW today for a sports startup, the fastest rising sports startup of all time and the most successful sports startup in the world since the American Football League, the AFL, that later merged with the NFL. I don't see that same future for us, but I do love the comparison, and I think the numbers are quite real. And frankly, the story is very exciting for AEW that, look, we are a major player in the sports scene, and it's going to be a really big year for our company coming up with our media rights renewal, and it's the most important thing right now for the wrestlers and the staff and everybody that works at AEW, and for our fans and everybody that follows AEW. And another really important aspect of this is the pay-per-view growth. We've grown the business, and last year we expanded the pay-per-view calendar, and we had our, by far, biggest year ever on pay-per-view, and we expect it to continue this year. We saw the average go up last year while we increased shows. This year, expanding the calendar, and the expansion is this show. This is the added show, Dynasty, the one that happens this weekend. And this is a stacked card. It's one of my favorite cards we've ever put together, and the build we've done to get here, there have been some tremendous moments. Last night was a really good go-home show. And on these calls, these calls are usually on the Thursday after the go-home Dynamite. And we've actually spent a decent amount of time. When I say we, it's, the collection of us that are often on these calls, myself and a lot of you, the top wrestling media. We've spent a lot of time talking about the science of the go-home show and the different ways they're put together and what, I think this was one of our best received go-home shows we've ever done. And this was really, for me, it's always exciting, and there's a risk when you add a new event, change the calendar, do something like creating a new show that is AEW Dynasty. And so far, the build, the card, it's all very exciting, and it's all shaping up for a great event this weekend on Sunday on pay-per-view. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics will go next, and I will follow Brandon with a write-in from Kimmy Sokol from the Pop Break. Brandon, you are up.
As always, for your time. I was wondering if you could clear up something that was raised by, in Punk's interview a few weeks ago. He said that he personally paid for all of the medical expenses related to his 2022 triceps injury. I was wondering, can you say if there's any truth to that? And more broadly, is there a policy that AEW pays for medical expenses related to injuries that happen at AEW?
We typically do pay those expenses. I'd have to look into that. I can't say for sure. It doesn't sound right to me. If that is the case, then I would reimburse them, honestly. I didn't think that was the case, and it doesn't sound right. So I would have to look into that. That's a good question, but typically we do cover those medical expenses, especially for something that occurred in the ring, as that did. So I would have to look into that. But no, I'm not sure about that. I can't say for sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm going to go with the write-in here from Kimmy Sokol from the Pop Break, and then Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy. You will follow Tony's response to Kimmy, who asks, this weekend, Thunder Rosa is going after the title she never truly lost. How would you assess her comeback, and what is your excitement for the match this weekend?
I'm very excited about Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm, the Thunderstorm, the Battle of Thunderstorm for the AEW Women's World Championship. It's been great having Thunder Rosa back. She had been out with an injury for a very long time, and we weren't sure when she was going to be able to come back. And it's been awesome, the return of Thunder Rosa, her involvement in this story. I think she's had some strong matches since her return, and what a great promo last Saturday on Collision. And she got involved again, smearing the lipstick on Toni Storm at Dynamite last night in Indianapolis. It was a great event, and it was a great moment, and I'm very excited for that match. I think Thunder Rosa is one of our top stars in the women's division going back many years, and has built a great rivalry with Timeless Toni Storm. I think Timeless Toni Storm has been a great champion so far, and this would be not only a great challenge and a great challenger, but a really, really important title fight on a great show this weekend on Dynasty this Sunday. I'm very excited for that match. I think it's a great card, and that is a great rivalry, Thunder Rosa versus Timeless Toni Storm. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimmy. Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy is next, and after Amy will be Liam Crowley from Comic Book. Amy.
Incredible Dynasty card, and I'm particularly excited about the women's championship matches that are on the show. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up a developing story in the news this week with AEW and the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission. Can you share your thoughts on OSAC putting out a warning for having Nyla Rose wrestle in the state of Oklahoma? Thank you for your time.
Yes. Well, I would like to talk about that story with the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission and the warning they issued against AEW when we featured Nyla Rose on the show in Oklahoma City last December. I was really surprised by this. It was not something I was expecting, and of course, I was disappointed by the commission's position and by that warning. I don't think we did anything wrong. I'm really, really shocked by it. I don't think there should be discrimination against transgender wrestlers or transgender people at all. And, you know, they have rights. And to that end, I absolutely stand behind Nyla Rose. AEW stands behind Nyla Rose and all transgender people who want to play sports. And this is wrestling. There was nothing wrong with it. Nyla Rose is a great wrestler. She's been a great world champion. And I love Nyla. I love working with Nyla. She's been a great part of our history. She was the first transgender world champion ever. And she's a great part of the AEW Together program. She does a ton for the community. She's a great person with a great heart and very supportive of the other wrestlers. One of the funniest people on social media. I personally have nominated Nyla to TBS for the best social media presence on more than one occasion over the years. And she's an AEW original. She's been part of this team since 2019, going back to the very first year of AEW, the first shows, the first Dynamite. And look at everything Nyla's accomplished. And, you know, to just put that label on her, that's not right. She's much more than that. And, you know, she's a great athlete. And I hope everybody can look at Nyla and see that she's a great wrestler, a great person, and she deserves the same chances as everybody else. And if the AEW locker room, which consists of people from all over the world, all kinds of different backgrounds, all different beliefs, if everybody in the locker room can embrace Nyla, I would hope that the Oklahoma Commission could do the same thing. So I'd also like to mention, speaking of Dynasty, Nyla is working with one of our new pay-per-view partners for the domestic digital presentation of AEW Dynasty, PPV.com. Nyla is going to be a special guest host for the PPV.com AEW Dynasty event. We're very happy about that. We were thrilled when she accepted the invitation weeks ago, and we're all excited about all the different ways you can watch this pay-per-view. This is going to be the most widely available event for digital distribution domestically ever in the history of AEW. And for AEW Dynasty, there's a lot of choices. Of course, Nyla is going to be there on PPV.com, and we have great providers with Triller TV, YouTube, and our longtime base at Bleacher Report. We really appreciate Bleacher Report and Warner Brothers Discovery working with AEW to make sure our fans have a lot of options to watch the pay-per-view. And I'm glad Nyla is going to be hosting that. That's something that's been in the works for a while. I think the world of Nyla, and that's how I feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Liam Crowley from Comic Book is next, and Liam will be followed by Samantha Shipman from the Daily DDT. Liam, you are next.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for the time today. I was super stoked to see Jon Moxley kick off Dynamite last night as the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Moving forward with his schedule, I'm just curious about his presence on AEW TV, how that will be impacted by his New Japan commitments. And also on that note, do you have the sanction to decide if and when he can defend that title on AEW programming or AEW pay-per-views, or is that something you need to get approved by New Japan first?
Well, it's really exciting to have Jon Moxley back in AEW and back in AEW as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. It's truly a lifelong dream for Jon Moxley, and it's a dream for me to have a great IWGP Heavyweight Champion here on Dynamite. It's a dream come true, and Jon, whether it's Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, he's been on all the shows. He's an AEW original dating back to our very first show 5 years ago. And Jon Moxley's a fan favorite. He's a great leader and a great world champion for any company. And it's so special to have Mox working with AEW and New Japan and as the world champion here. And absolutely, it's a great partnership between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's a championship that is sanctioned by New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Ghetto is the matchmaker there. We share a person who's very close to both of us. Rocky Romero is a vice president in both companies and is a great intermediary and partner for both of us. And we work together very closely. And to sanction the championship, that is Ghetto's decision. If the championship is defended in AEW, then it's a mutual decision. And whenever Mox will be out there defending the title, whatever the future of Mox as the champion in New Japan is, we look forward to working really closely with New Japan Pro Wrestling on these dates and on this amazing journey and this great milestone that Jon Moxley is the IWGP World Champion now. It's great.
Thank you very much, Liam. Samantha Shipman from the Daily DDT is next, and I'm going to follow Samantha with a write-in from Jeremy Housewright from Review STL. Samantha. Samantha?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. I want to go back to Amy and Emity's question for a moment, and you gave a wonderful response about Nyla. With the warning, will this keep you from running shows in Oklahoma or other states that have transgender or have bans on transgender athletes? And if you do decide to perform in these states, will you have Nyla perform and risk whatever warning or fines that they may impose on you?
All I can say is we have a great plan for our shows in 2024 and 2025. We've got a great new team working on routing, and we'll take all of this into consideration. I definitely am treating this as a developing story. I was kind of surprised by this, but definitely want to do our best to support the fans across America and all over the world and bring AEW wrestling everywhere. We have great fans. We have great fans in Oklahoma that are important to us and great fans all over the country. And so we'll do anything we can to support those fans. So it's something we're going to have to think about, but, it's a fair question. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Samantha. Here's a write-in, Tony, from Jeremy Housewright from Review STL. And once you've responded to Jeremy, Bill Pritchard from WrestleZone will be next. Jeremy's question: given the pro wrestling history that St. Louis has, do you think it's fitting to have such an instant classic like Bryan Danielson versus Will Osprey here in St. Louis?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question about Bryan? I'm not sure. I might have missed 1 second with the audio there, Jim.
Sure. Jeremy asked the same question I would ask, and that is, given the pro wrestling history here in St. Louis, do you think it's fitting that such an instant classic is ahead for us here with Bryan Danielson versus Will Osprey?
What a great question. It does sound like you wrote that one yourself, Jim. Well, it's a great question. I'm very excited for AEW Dynasty this weekend. It's going to be a great pay-per-view for all the fans across the world to watch this Sunday. And we're going to have an amazing live crowd on hand in St. Louis at the Chaffetz Arena for this amazing event. And certainly people around the world are talking about this dream match, Bryan Danielson versus Will Osprey. I cannot wait for this match. I'm so excited about Danielson versus Osprey on Sunday at pay-per-view. It's going to be a sight to be seen. It's going to be a great match when Will Osprey locks up with the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. In my opinion, these are two of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life. And to have a first-time matchup like this, it's really, really thrilling. It's been a sports-based presentation. We've had a lot of great rivalries developing in many different ways, and I think that's been one of the really cool things. The build to a lot of the different matches on the card has been very different. This has really been more of a pure sports-focused build to get to Osprey versus Danielson, because this is a real wrestling dream match, and I think that's taken center stage. So there haven't been as many brawls between these guys, and the presentation has been different than a lot of the other matches on the card. And I think that each of the big matches has its own unique presentation for the most part. And I think that's a really exciting thing about the Dynasty pay-per-view card. But certainly fans around the world are really excited to see Bryan Danielson versus Will Osprey. And I know I'm very, very excited for that match. I think it's going to be excellent, and it should just be a great card. And I think Danielson versus Osprey is emblematic of what we have planned for AEW Dynasty. Should be a all-time great AEW show this Sunday, I expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Bill Pritchard from WrestleZone will go next, and follow there after Tony responds to Bill, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Bill, you are up. Bill, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Couldn't hear anything. I wanted to ask about the decision to, if this is the right way to phrase it, open up the options for the domestic pay-per-view outlets. I know there's been some issues with Bleacher Report. It kind of came to a head with the ROH pay-per-view. So I just wanted to know if you could explain why, outside of the obvious issues with broadcasting it, why it took so long to open it up, and if we could expect all future events after, I think it was announced the next 3 pay-per-views, if this is going to be ongoing after those 3 events.
I'm optimistic it'll continue, that we're able to deliver the AEW digital pay-per-view events on multiple streaming platforms. And this is the most digital distribution we've ever had for any AEW event for AEW Dynasty this weekend, which is really exciting. There are so many great options, depending on what platforms you use, what kind of devices you watch pay-per-views on. There'll be lots of options to watch AEW Dynasty. I think it's really cool that Warner Brothers Discovery has given us all these options. For a long time, Bleacher Report had been an exclusive platform, and I think that's been beneficial to us because it's helped bring us closer to Warner Brothers Discovery, which is our amazing media partner and an incredibly important relationship for us. And then for them to allow us to use multiple digital partners for distribution of AEW Dynasty and the upcoming pay-per-view events, that's really exciting for us. It allows us to reach even more fans now and do all of it with the blessing of our amazing media partner. Now that we've established that we have this great presence on Bleacher Report and now touching other platforms, I think it's awesome, and I'm very excited about it. It's a great step for us. I can't say for sure what will happen after the next 3 events, other than to say we will still have great digital distribution regardless, and I'm optimistic and excited about the opportunity to distribute these upcoming shows on multiple platforms that was granted to us by our amazing media partners at Warner Brothers Discovery, who have been so great to us at AEW. Thank you very much for asking.
Appreciate that, Bill. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer will go next, followed by Ella J., a wrestling gal. Dave. Dave, are you there?
Dave, can you hear us?
Dave, are you muted?
He's unmuted.
How about if we try Ella J, and then we can come back to Dave. Is Ella ready to go?
Ella, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Go ahead, Ella. We'll try Dave in a minute.
Okay. Hi, Tony. I wanted to ask you about your decision to book a winner-takes-all match for the ROH six-man titles and the AEW trios titles, specifically wondering if these titles will be unified at AEW Dynasty or what the plan is going forward after this match concludes.
Yeah, absolutely. The winner of the match will be the undisputed world trios champions. I think that's very cool. And it'll create a lot of great opportunities for the top trios out there. And I think it's very exciting, some consolidation and unification of championships. And we have 2 great trios here, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, who won their championships dating back last year, and with Jay White and the Guns. And I have a ton of respect for all 6 men. They have a lot of history with each other, and it should be an excellent match. We had an injury this past week, and I had been waiting to confirm this match on the card, just to, give you guys a look behind the curtain at the process. And when we got the clearance from the doctors, I was really excited to be able to add this match to the card. And I know the fans in St. Louis will be excited to see these wrestlers, and it's something fun for the fans all over the world. We're going to have a great card on the 0 hour, and even if you can't afford to buy the pay-per-view, you'll be able to watch that great wrestling, and that's a great way to get people all over the world watching, and that's available on YouTube and all the pay-per-view platforms. The pre-show going into AEW Dynasty that we'll have this Sunday. Should be a great match. Thanks for asking, Ella.
Thank you, Ella. We're going to try Dave Meltzer again, and then I'm going to follow with a write-in from Steve Fall from 10 Count. Dave, you there?
Hello.
There you are.
Hey, Dave.
Hey. Okay. So with the first quarter being over and kind of just going through that Forbes story, when it comes to comparisons to Q1 in 2023 and Q1 in 2024, how much can you say as far as like, is everything kind of the same? Is revenue up? Is it up substantially? Is it profit loss?
Yes.
Kind of like business overview of Q1 2023 versus Q1 2024, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thank you, Dave. Yes, Q1 2024, the revenue is significantly up. We've run more events. We've added AEW Collision, and AEW Dynamite is strong. We've had good attendance, in some markets, year over year, attendance up, and in particular, a lot of really successful shows in this run, like great events, including Boston, Toronto. AEW Revolution was one of our top U.S. gates ever. And then on the pay-per-view side, AEW Revolution in Q1 is one of the biggest AEW pay-per-view shows of all time. It was our biggest pay-per-view since last year's AEW All In, and it surpassed last year's Revolution. Last year's Revolution did really, really well. It was one of the best pay-per-view shows of the year. A lot of people thought it was the best pay-per-view show of the year. It included MJF versus Bryan Danielson in the 60-minute Iron Man match and a lot of great wrestling. Great show. This year, the show did even better. The gate was up, and the pay-per-view buys were significantly up for what was Sting's final encounter, the last pro wrestling match of Sting. On a personal level, it's probably the greatest thing I've ever been a part of and the greatest night I've ever been a part of. And it was a very successful business. So with more shows, more pay-per-view revenue, it's been more revenue this year. So big growth there and a lot of opportunities. Also, our rights fee was higher with the 2024 option getting picked up versus 2023 for Dynamite and the addition of more shows. We had significantly higher revenue in 2024. So it is a big growth and also big opportunities going into the media rights renewal year and continuing to grow the business going into 2025. Thanks for asking, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. So Steve Fall from 10 Count, his questions are right in, Tony. I'm going to follow Steve with Jonathan Hood, who also has a write-in. So first from Steve from 10 Count. Why did you release the 2024 AEW pay-per-view schedule so early in the year?
Well, we have a great new chief operating officer, Koshe Irby, and this was an initiative from our live events and marketing and arena booking teams to get out in advance, allow fans to make their plans for people who want to travel, get the schedule out early. It's very different than what we had done before. I think it's really exciting for the fans, and it seems like it's been really well received. Koshe is a brilliant guy, and the team he's putting together has had a lot of great ideas that have been very additive to AEW, and we're going to continue trying to grow the business, and I think he's been a great addition to the team. We've got a great group with Koshe on the live event side and Mike Mansuri overseeing global production, and a great group of people on those teams helping us make a plan for these events going forward. And we're already working on 2025's pay-per-view shows. There's a lot of exciting opportunities in terms of a lot of great markets in America that we have done events in, and also great markets in America where we have yet to bring a pay-per-view that I think would thrive and would be excellent choices for pay-per-views, as well as international events. So a lot of really cool opportunities this year and next year, and I thought it was a great idea to get out and announce the 2024 pay-per-view calendar well in advance for many of the events, put the whole calendar out recently, and I'm glad it's been so well received. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Steve. And Jonathan Hood from Good Karma Wrestling and ESPN Radio in Chicago, his question is sort of in the same spirit there, and that is, what are some of the cities and arenas that AEW hasn't been to yet that you'd like to bring AEW programming to in the near future?
Well, there's so many countries that I'd like to visit. When, it's kind of amazing. All the AEW shows we've done have been in the U.S., Canada, or England. And those are incredible markets. Those are some of my favorite places in the world. And U.S., Canada, and UK, frankly, probably represents where I personally spend 99.9% of my personal time. But I would like to get out and bring AEW to all these other great places around the world. There's places in America and Canada and the UK that we haven't been to yet. There's great cities in those territories that we still haven't covered. And I'm excited to make our debut in many of those places, but there's also great countries all over the world where we have yet to bring AEW. And these are places where we have great media partners that can help us plan. We're working with ESPN in Australia and New Zealand. That's pretty exciting. And we have great media partners in Germany, Italy, all over Europe. A lot of exciting opportunities. And certainly in the places we have been wrestling and the media partners we have been great. And there's still uncharted, rather uncovered territory for us there. So I think it's really cool, and absolutely would love to bring AEW to more first-time cities still in 2024 and going into 2025. I think there's tons of great opportunities there to break new ground for AEW. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So I've got Arunava Ghoshal from Sportskeeda will be next, followed by Jalen Doherty from ESPN Radio in Owensboro. Arunava, you're up next.
Seeing online the reactions Young Bucks have been receiving over their great character work. So if you could let us know how much creative input you have and how much the Bucks have in creating this successful change that we have been noticing.
It's been a lot of fun. It's a partnership, and they had great ideas. And it's funny. I think I can say this. Not only we have the right media partner with Warner Brothers Discovery, but also I was very fortunate to befriend Jesse Armstrong recently. Jesse Armstrong being a Fulham supporter, and he got caught by the wrestling media and sitting with me at a Fulham match recently at Craven Cottage. And in addition to being a Fulham supporter, Jesse Armstrong is such a brilliant writer. And it turned out that he's a really, really nice guy too. I really have enjoyed talking to him. And he inadvertently helped inspire this change. Matt and Nick mentioned to me, we were talking about changes for 2024, and they asked about something inspired by Succession. And then I had a meeting with them and a lot of the team in Jacksonville on January 10th in Daly's Place. And it was kind of surreal because Matt and Nick and I had spent days and days and days of our lives, when you add it all up, just probably weeks of our lives actually, in this office in Daly's Place in Jacksonville when you add all the time up, and spent a ton of time in there with many different people over the years, including Kenny, Cody, Chris Jericho, John Moxley, FTR, and a lot of other people that have been here over the years. And I was in there with Matt and Nick and a ton of our production staff, including some people that were new to Daly's Place, like Mike Mansouri and a lot of the staff that had joined us in the past couple of years. And Matt and Nick had some ideas, and I had a big vision for where we would go. And I remember on January 10th, Matt and Nick had an idea of a presentation that was their idea and has been tremendous, of utilizing Succession. So I was able to just tell Jesse straight up to his face, there are wrestlers in our show that have been very inspired by Succession, and Their theme song may or may not be very similar to the Succession theme song. He was very kind about it. And Matt and Nick brought that up, and I thought it was such a great idea. I'm such a big Succession fan, and I thought it was a great idea for them. So we started working on that late last year. And then January 10th, we had this meeting in Jacksonville. And it was a really good meeting, and I laid out ideas for upcoming events. And so far, it has all played out exactly like we talked about, and it was such a great meeting. And I'm really excited about where we're at now, but it's fun to look back because it was January 10th, and that was the night they came out to challenge Sting and Darby for Revolution. And then the things that came after that, Sting and Darby winning the tag team championship, the tag team championship, being then vacated after Sting and Darby versus the Young Bucks at Revolution, and creating an opportunity for this great tag team tournament and building something, this rivalry now that we have, FTR versus Young Bucks in the tournament final, and heating up one of the best rivalries in AEW and making it feel fresh and new, and talking about all this, by the way, in Daly's place, the site of the original FTR versus Young Bucks match. Personally, I could feel the creative juices flowing through me and in the room. And, something that came up in there, I mentioned Okada. And I thought Okada's arrival would be tremendous. And that on the Dynamite after Revolution, when we vacated the championships and started to build towards this tournament, that we'd have this great final with FTR versus the Young Bucks. I also mentioned, I think Okada coming in will be perfect, and the group of Okada and the Young Bucks, and they fit together like a glove. And it's unthinkable. It really makes Matt and Nick terrible villains on TV. They've just embraced it, and Matt and Nick are so great in these roles, and also they're great partners with Okada. The three of them have this chemistry I had seen in real life, and I feel like it's like, taking my experience in Hollywood, we're in artist management and production, and as a partner in activist artist management, what I've said to a lot of my media partners and friends is, it reminds me of if you saw a group of actors together at a party and you saw the chemistry, but they had never done a film together or a project together, and you say, geez, this should be the movie. Look at the chemistry with you guys. And the thought of the Young Bucks firing Kenny Omega, of all people, and then how sacrilegious and terrible it would be for these guys to replace Kenny Omega with Okada, of all people. What an insult to Kenny. And for Matt and Nick, after everything they've done with Kenny, after everything Kenny's done for AEW and the Elite, to fire him, so ungrateful, especially while he's sick and he can't even, go out and wrestle. I mean, he's, the company's obviously taking care of Kenny, and Kenny's being paid, so he's not like it's not like he's destitute, but he's unable to wrestle. He can't be here. It's not fair. And they fired him. And I just think it's great heat, and it's a great opportunity for the future. And this team with Okada and the Young Bucks, I've really enjoyed working with them. They had an amazing match last night, and you see the presentation and the details and all the nuanced things that Matt and Nick and Okada do. And then when you think how really new that group is and how great they all are together, it's scary. Certainly Okada has taken to American wrestling television incredibly quickly, and I'm not at all surprised by that. I predicted it. And in that room on January 10th, I was saying, I think this guy can come in and be a franchise heel and do something very different than what he's been doing, what he's done. And I bet with Matt and Nick working with him and with all of us talking and collaborating, that Okada would come in and be a great centerpiece star for AEW, which he has done. And tons of credit to Matt and Nick and Okada for this. And now they all three of them have these huge championship matches at AEW Dynasty this Sunday. I cannot wait for Okada versus Pac for the Continental Championship. And that'll be a very different kind of match than the World Tag Team Championship match, the ladder match, the finals of the tournament, FTR versus the Young Bucks. It's like I said, it's FTR versus Young Bucks 4. There have been 3 previous chapters in this rivalry. All have been excellent matches, Jacksonville, Boston, and London. And the rivalry's grown, and it feels now more heated and bitter than ever. And I love all three of those matches. I love the match we had in Daly's place so much, which was something I brought up when we were talking about this road to Dynasty and all the twists and turns we would take from Revolution to Dynasty. And can't wait for that ladder match. Obviously, that'll be a very different thing than the Continental title. And really, really all the credit in the world to the Elite for this new act and this new presentation. It's been really a fun thing to see, and it's a great part of AEW right now. I thought the match last night on Dynamite was excellent, and I'm really looking forward to the pay-per-view, and also this Saturday for free, everybody can watch, FTR teaming with PAC versus Young Bucks and Okada, the Elite. Should be a great preview of the action we're going to see on Dynasty on Sunday, and everybody can watch that for free on TNT this Saturday, and it's a great way to spend $420. Thanks.
Thank you, Arunava. Jalen Doherty from ESPN Radio in Owensboro is next. I will follow Jalen with a write-in from Andrew Baidala from SNE Network. Jalen.
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
We can.
Yep, we hear you.
All right, hey, Tony. So you're on the heels of what is perhaps one of the best AEW cards in history, but you're without some of your biggest superstars. You know, no Maxwell Jacob Friedman, no Britt Baker, no Jamie Hayter, no Sammy Guevara. You know, rumor going around you guys are going to be bringing in the Motor City Machine Guns. You know, what's the status on some of these the guys on the injury report and some of the free agents like the Motor City Machine Guns going into Dynasty?
Well, sir, I appreciate it. You sound like a real wrestling fan, and I love to hear it. I am really proud of the AEW Dynasty card. We have, I believe, an awesome lineup for this pay-per-view. It has the potential to be one of the greatest events ever in AEW, and we've done some incredible pay-per-views. I think we're coming off arguably our best show ever for AEW Revolution. It's my personal favorite. My personal favorites, it might be if I had to do a Mount Rushmore, last year's All In and All Out, and then this year's Revolution and the original Revolution, that would be pretty good. And honestly, then I would say it's pretty hard to not have a Daily's Place show on there too. Double or Nothing 2021 maybe might be the fifth one, but definitely, we're coming off one of my favorite pay-per-views, and this is a new event. It's the first ever AEW Dynasty. Just mentioned the inaugural Revolution is one of my favorite events, and the matches on the card had different builds, and it felt like an important moment for the company. And we had a great crowd that night in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena, and I was just thinking about that event when I was in the offices of the Wintrust Arena the other day for the great New Japan event last week, and being at that great event, the Windy City New Japan event, brought back a lot of memories of the original Revolution. And I was saying to Mox, it's cool being here with you again, and you winning your first ever New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP World Championship. We're here in the same exact arena where Mox won the AEW World Championship for the first time at the Wintrust Arena at the first Revolution. And it was a great event. It was a great moment for the company, and it was in our first year. And who knew what was ahead of us after that? And now here we are, and it's another debut. And it's a different event, but certainly at Dynasty, it does have that feeling of just something fresh and exciting for the company. And as you said, we have so many of our top wrestlers that are unavailable right now. When you talk about big stars like Kenny Omega, Dr. Britt Baker, and Jamie Hayter, and of course MJF, Adam Cole, number of top stars unavailable and injured. These are people that we love having in AEW. These are some of our biggest stars, and I think it speaks to the high quality and the high standards we set for the locker room and the roster in AEW that we're able to put on one of our best pay-per-view cards ever, have great shows like the Dynamite last night and this Saturday's 420 card in Peoria, and really very, very pumped for Dynasty. And also, as you've astutely pointed out, I think it's really cool. We're able to put together one of our best pay-per-view cards ever with some great stars sidelined with injuries. And I can't wait to have those stars back and have more great events with them. And the locker room can lift each other up, and we're able to take care of all these people, and they're all collecting the paycheck. And it's because we have this really strong locker room that can support each other when people are hurt, and they can lift each other up. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Jalen. So I've got a write-in from Andrew Baydala from SNE Network, and after you answer that, we will conclude with Kristen Ashley from USA Today Sports Media Group. Andrew's question, Tony, is, at this time, is there more of a formulated plan to move to a streaming platform or a possible bundle plan for consumers here in the United States?
It's a great question. I think it's something that we'll be looking at and evaluating in the upcoming media rights negotiations. Excuse me, I muted my phone. I had to sneeze. And I think there's a great opportunity for AEW and really our media team and all of our fans to present this incredible library that has never really been made available. You know, it's amazing. We've done over 230 episodes of AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. We've had, hundreds of episodes of Dynamite, Rampage, and now Collision is approaching a one-year anniversary. We've done so many great pay-per-view events. I think, over the past 5 years, a large percentage of the best events on pay-per-view and wrestling have been from AEW. And the whole library has never been in one place together. There's no place to really go back and watch all these Dynamites and all these great events. And so an archive library and a place to put streaming events, it's a really interesting idea. And I think it's certainly something that has existed in wrestling, and wrestling fans are able to watch a lot of events on streaming, and the AEW events should be up there. And it's something that I expect to happen in our next media rights deal. We're in an exclusive window right now talking to Warner Brothers Discovery, which is amazing. And it's been a great time with Warner Brothers Discovery. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the debut of AEW on Turner Sports. That is phenomenal to me, and it's really important. And I want to respect our media partner and how important those negotiations are to us. And certainly we're going to have a great opportunity coming into 2025 to present all of the AEW TV and all of our major pay-per-view events, like this Sunday, the first ever AEW Dynasty, and where all these shows live in 2025 is to be determined, which is really exciting for us. So it's a great question, and we'll see where that ends up.
Thank you, Andrew. Last question of the day, Tony, comes from Kristen Ashley from the USA Today Sports Media Group. Kristen.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Is that your question?
No. I just want to start by saying congratulations on the signing of Carlos Cabrera. I know he's absolutely beloved and a veteran in his field. When you also consider your strong partnership with CMLL, these seem like very specific moves. Can you tell us more about your strategy for growth in the Spanish-speaking market?
These are great questions. It's been amazing working with CMLL. They're one of the greatest wrestling organizations in the world. And it's been interesting because Koche, he had worked recently as the CMO of Clemson at PBR, and he had worked as a live events executive in WWE. So he does have wrestling experience. And when he came in here, I mentioned to him, this is going to be different than anything you've seen. And he said, you're right, because I mentioned I have partnerships and friendships in wrestling, and it's something that really, on this level, to be an organization, with hundreds and millions of dollars in revenues and a multi-billion-dollar valuation now, it's you have a lot of experience with that in wrestling, but what you haven't necessarily seen, and now he's seeing it firsthand, is the kind of friendships and partnerships we built here on trust and loyalty with New Japan Pro Wrestling and now with CMLL. And these are the most respected wrestling organizations in their respective countries. They each have these decades and decades of great traditions, and their leaderships are honorable people who really value respect, and we've been able to build that mutual respect and trust, and it's what led us to launching Forbidden Door and launching now this partnership with CMLL that's seen some of their top stars coming up here and has seen great stars like Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli, and Matt Sydal going down to Mexico. And this has been embraced by all sides. And Salvador, who runs CMLL, has been just great to work with. Rocky, again, is an amazing intermediary between these companies. And it's really great having Rocky in AEW, but he's also a really fair person who's looking out for the interests of everybody in these things. And I think that's what's really cool is we all trust him. And, it's a very unique situation having a person who holds an office in these two major wrestling promotions in AEW and New Japan, but also Rocky's a big part of the team in CMLL as well. And working with CMLL, I think, has allowed us to bring in some great talent, utilize them. We've seen Mystico, in particular, has come in and built an undefeated record in AEW to match the undefeated record he has since he returned to Mexico and to CMLL. And I look forward to working with CMLL more in the future here in the U.S. and in Mexico and internationally, as well as with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it's really cool what is being built. Carlos Cabrera coming in is perfect timing. Mike Mansouri had a lot of great experience working with Carlos for many years. They were very close, and it was Mike's idea. Mike is a fluent Spanish speaker also and had done a lot of production work for WWE on the Spanish-speaking side, and I thought it was a great point, and it was something the fans brought up. I try to listen to fan feedback, and I know that our fans wanted us to upgrade the presentation in Espanol and do work to make the best possible presentation for the fans who want the Spanish language version of the shows. And Carlos Cabrera is an excellent commentator and somebody who had a great reputation, and Mike spoke really highly of him. So I was excited to hire Carlos, and he's officially joined the team now this week, going into AEW Dynasty. And it was great to have Carlos calling Dynamite last night. And it seems like something that's been really well received by the fans, which is awesome. And hopefully will help us continue to grow our Latino fan base. And I really am a big fan of CMLL. I think it's safe to say that I was the biggest CMLL fan at the University of Illinois, 15 to 20 years ago. And I guess it would be closer to 20 than 15, sadly. but I was the biggest CMLL fan 17, 18, 20 years ago at the University of Illinois, and it was really the promotion I was watching the most. And there's so many great wrestlers still competing today, 20 years later, in CMLL, and it was great. Brian got to go work with some of those great stars, including Blue Panther and Mystico, many others, and there's still a lot of opportunities to do a lot more with CMLL and hopefully bring more of their stars up here, work with them, and have Carlos Cabrera now calling their matches. It's very cool. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Kristen. Tony, that is our time. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, it's been great visiting with you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming to the AEW Dynasty All Media Call. Hopefully we got to answer most of your questions. I know there was a lot of questions, and maybe we weren't able to get them all in this hour. If you're able to come to St. Louis this weekend or even send in a question, we're going to try to answer them all after the pay-per-view. And if you come to the show, I'm going to do my best to stay and make sure I answer at least a question from every single person who comes to the Scrum. I generally try to. I really appreciate all of you covering this event. This is the first ever AEW Dynasty. It would not be possible to grow AEW and launch new events like this and have such an exciting show and so much fan excitement about it without all of you. And I really appreciate all of you. Many of you have been covering AEW since day one, 5 years ago. And without all of you, we wouldn't be in this position. So thank you very much for coming today. And hopefully I'll see a lot of you on Sunday at AEW Dynasty. And Jim, thank you. It's the rare post pay-per-view Scrum where you'll get to go back and sleep in your own bed after the show. So I know you're excited for that too. And it should be a great show.
I may not go to bed. It's going to be that good of a show. So, but thank you very much, Tony, and thanks to everybody. We're now at the end of our time. As always, expect an audio recording to be delivered shortly. And also, as always, know how much we appreciate you participating today and for your commitment to covering AEW, as Tony mentioned, and professional wrestling. So all of us at AEW hope to see you in St. Louis over the weekend, and especially on Sunday night for AEW Dynasty at Chaffetz Arena. With that, 1,000 thanks to everyone and safe travels to St. Louis.